Assalamualaikum to all. Today we are going to present our group assignment with a topic of issues in Malaysian banking industry. So let's start. As we all know, the year 2020 brought with it the world's deepest recession since the coronavirus pandemic spread, primarily due to the implementation of traffic restriction, border closure, and international travel bans. The unprecedented situation severely reduced global economic activity and caused the global economy to contract sharply. Weaker domestic activity has also resulted in deterioration of labour market condition and revenue loss, affecting consumption, expenditure, and the banking sector. Moreover, the term ethics comes from the Greek word, which is ethos, meaning character. Ethics is a branch of philosophy concerned with human nature and behavior in terms of moral duty and duty. The discipline is both good and bad. The same action or practice is regarded as ethical or unethical, depending on which school of moral thought one adheres to. Thus, we will explain the 7 basic ethical principles from the business ethic and its importance in the banking industry article and discuss the principle used by the global and local banking industries. The 7 basic ethical principles in banking are principle of mutual trust, principle of mutual benefit, principle of good intention, principle of business compromise and business tolerance, principle of ethical improvement of business behavior, principle of demonopolization of one's own position, as well as the principle of conflict between one's own interests.
Problem or issue faced by Malaysia Bank. Fraud is described as a deliberate misrepresentation frequently manifest as financial loss brought on by company or individual hiding information or being dishonest. The One Malaysia Development Berhad scandal is one of Malaysia's continued political scandal involved fraud. 1MDB scandal. Former Malaysia Prime Minister Najib Razak was accused of diverting funds from One Malaysia Development Berhad, which include Loh Tejo, often known as Joe Loh, to his personal bank account for a total of more than 1.67 billion, about 700 million in 2015. 1MDB. Political opponent of Najib, Anwar Ibrahim, openly questioned the legitimacy of 1MDB. According to record maintained by the Company Commission, he claimed before Parliament that the company had no business address and no designated auditor. Data thief. Accessing company computer or serve information continuous data thief. The types of corporation fraud can happen both inside and internationally, posing a serious risk to business of all sizes. Next, personal information cannot be traded. This is because a company wants to advise it good or service by coming into direct contact with the user information that it has either stolen or acquired. If users continue to use their personal information, they will be experiencing insecurity. The MCC responsibility is to investigate and apprehend people who have stolen user data.
The COVID-19 outbreak is having an enormous effect on the whole world. To stop the virus from spreading, government are enforcing social distance policy and ordering non-essential company to close. It is not yet known how this limitation will impact people's life. Business that depend on direct consumer interaction, including hotels and transportation company, are losing sources of income, while households with employees in this field are losing money. begin with, companies that shut down lost income and might not be able to pay off their obligation. In the situation like this, family with members who have laid off might not be able to pay back their debt because they have lost their source of income. This will impact earning and bank capital by causing a loss of revenue as a losses. Besides that, bonds and other traded financial products also suffer a value decline, which has hurt banks by increasing their losses. Next, company in particular desire more cash flow to support their costs even when sales are flat or dropping, which is causing banks to experience a rise in credit demand. And last but not least, as a demand for their different service drop, banks are seeing a decline in non-interest revenue. Less economic activity means few transactions and payment to be done, as well as less security concern by corporations that restrict fee income for investment bank.
Now let's move to the effect. First, liquidity or revenue. BNM has lowered the minimum regulatory standards for both the LCR and NSFR ratios to help financial institutions manage and navigate the effect of the loan moratorium. This enables financial institutions to carry on lending while meeting their liquidity needs during this challenging time. On top of that, BNM has taken proactive measures to boost liquidity, including a recent 100 basis point decrease in the statutory reserve requirement ratio and enhanced SRR flexibility provided to principal dealers. Next, employment. Numerous services such as financial service and activities requiring many people are unavailable because of the inability or restricted operation of numerous institutions. As a result, numerous employees were let go for the business to cut operational expenses because they were unable to charge more for the services. Last, borrower assistance. Announcement of borrower relief turned out to have the biggest immediate impact on bank stock prices overall and across the board. Banks experienced significant abnormal returns after the publication of this regulation. Additionally, borrower assistance initiative decreased the premium of the liquidity risk. Following the announcement, banks with lower liquidity provision had greater abnormal returns. Additionally, it seems that bigger banks profit more than smaller banks.
In Malaysia, banking industry put a high priority on ethnic behaviour. Although the ethnic concern in the Malaysian banking has been improved, but we can still see from the problem that they cause such as fraud. The major strategy is to put the blend ethnic principle into the practice. Like any other financial organization that place a premium on ethnic want to turn a profit, but they often to do so without compromising their principle or doing harm to others. The mutual benefit and interest concept is the primary guiding principle. It implies that nobody involved in business collaboration should be dumped. The proper operation of the corporate structure is actually dependent on the second principle, which is the principle of mutual trust. This idea is also applicable in a pandemic situation where the majority of transactions were made online and trust between the bank and the consumer. Principle of good intention is a third rule. Is key factor in a business ethic and moral behavior. According to this idea, no business partner will ever be treated unfairly regardless of anything. Since fraud problems are more likely to occur in a pandemic condition, this principle was extremely important during this time. Business compromise, business tolerance, and principle of ethnic improve of business behavior are the fourth and the fifth principle respectively. It means that ethnic business behavior have improved. But lastly is the principle of conflict between one's own interest inability to relate to personal interests while upholding common ethnic standard is what is defined as. In order for this principle to be successful, all these ideas need to be not only suggested in the banking industry, but they also need to be closely follow up this suggestion. By doing this, any behavior like fraud and exploitation of information can be prevented.
Conclusion. The financial sector also requires ethical conduct. There are a total of several ethical principles in banking include the principle of mutual trust, mutual benefit, good intentions, business compromise, and tolerance. Improvement of ethical business behavior. Demonopolization of one's own position and conflict between one's own interests. The core of ethical business banking is comprehending the effect of banking operation on social and the environment. Even if ethical problems in Malaysia banking have decreased, the problem that emergence demonstrated that there are still problems with ethics in the country banking sector, and several steps should be made to prevent further deterioration of this problem. Unethical action like fraud or information exploitations can be prevented.